Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Formbook. It's a Grand National special. 34 runners, 30 fences. We look ahead to the world's most famous chase at Aintree on Saturday. Hopefully, we can point you in the direction of the winner of the £1 million showpiece. Yes, I'd like to say we're joined by Dan Overall once again to look ahead to all the action in terms of the Grand National this Saturday. Dan, I mean, just a brief word on the race itself, though. It has changed complexion a lot in recent years. You look at a Monmouth, and Aurora's Encore, even a Rule the World. I mean, the class of the field has got a lot better in recent years, would you argue?
Well, it has, and that is a result of the changes. I feel trainers feel less afraid to run their classier types. I think Shark Hanlon being the recent example have said he wouldn't have dreamed of running Hewick in the old school Grand National, but the modern style, the fences aren't as stiff. I think he's more than happy to take their chance, as are many others. So obviously the changes come with their pros and their cons. If the pros are, the better horses turn up. The cons are the proper old school national types, like Mr. Van Gogh, maybe even a Val Dancer who won the Welsh National, don't really have a chance of even getting in these days.
Poor old Mr. Van Gogh should be there. What a shame.
Next year.
Right, before we kick off, just to put in the direction of this year's Grand National offer, £12 per month, best offer for entire year, a huge saving if you want to join Racing TV now. So head to the website and you can make use of that offer. £12 a month for an entire year, best offer of the year. Let's have a look at the runners then. These are the 34. I won't go through them all, but as you can see, defending champ Iron Maximus is number 1 on your race card. Some others to pick out, including the joint Favs are in there. Iroko at number 18, Stumptown at number 10, and Duffel Coat is the final horse who sneaks in at number 34. Paul Nicholls with 5 runners, Henderson with 2, and Mullins has an array as well. So we're going to just give you a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this week's edition. So straight into it, Dan, what's the horse you've got 6th out of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Plugging on into 6th, I think we always like to have an outsider in these, and the one I can see running a big race but not being good enough to win is Duffel Coat for Gordon Elliott. Obviously, he's got a few in here. Just seen that Danny Gilligan is riding him, and he's ridden him a few times, including last time out. So I think that's a decent selection for him. Obviously, not a frequent winner over fences, but a proper Dale stayer and has to have good ground. This is actually his second in the Galway Plate under Danny Gilligan, actually. Never nearer. Obviously, that was a 2-mile 6 race. He's definitely built for further. And he returned to form, and he looked like he was going to return to form last time out in the National Hunt Chase under 12 stone, top weight. He was plugging on. I think he was definitely going to be placed when being brought down at the second last. He's the type, I think, a real marathon trip is going to suit. Good grounds in his favour. And compared to 12 stone last time out, you say he's got a real featherweight here. I don't think he's got the class to win. I think that the race has definitely changed, not exactly in his favour, but he's the type I can see plugging on into a place.
Okay, that's Dan's 6th selection. Just give you the betting as well while we're here. 8-1 Cove, Favs, Iron Maximus, Iroko, Stumptown. 10-1 for Hewick, Intense, Raffles and Vanillier. 12-1 for Minella Cocooner and Perceval Legallois. 20s at the moment for Grange Clare West, Highland and Candu Kid. Meeting of the Waters and Free Card Bragg are at 22-1. 25s Nick Rocket. 28-1 for Beauport, along with Senior Chief, one of the Henry de Bromhead runners. 33-1 for last year's third, Minella Indo, and John Joe and AJ O'Neill's Monbeg Genius. 50s for Brave Man's Game, Twig. 66, there's Dan's 6th selection there. Duffel Coat, massive price at 66s. 3 under through 5. Appreciate It, Broadway Boy, Fildor, Stay Away Faye, all at 80s. 100s for Chantry House, Cocoa Beach, Conflated, Hitman, Haranzo Dairy, Ida's Boy, and Raw Pagai. I think 150 to 1 shot is Celeb Delen. So there you go, 66 to 1 poke from Dan to kick us off. In terms of one horse for me, I think he was going to be higher on the shortlist earlier on this week, but just a bit concerned about the short turnaround. But Stumptown surely has to run well here. In terms of, first of all, his stamina, he stays longer than the mother-in-law, and believe that with mine, that's a very long time. And I think there's a lot more still to come off his current mark. I mean, he gets in here off a mark before, obviously won the cross-country. He's a horse as well, which seems to be more suited by these idiosyncratic courses and fences. So he's unbeaten his last 4 starts. My only concern is that he had a tough enough race here on ground that was softer than actually advertised. So that would be a slight concern, but I think he's still got a bit more scope for improvement, Stumptown. So I think it would be unfair to leave him out of the top 6, because I definitely think he can sneak in. Dan, your 5th selection?
One of the favourites, who I imagine will be top of many a shortlist. I'll have Iroko in 5th, and His claims are pretty obvious. So you look back to the second in the Mile May last year, the form of that has been boosted no end. Obviously, all of those around him have clearly improved. He necessarily hasn't to the same extent, but also I don't think he's necessarily been afforded the same chance to improve because the Grand National has always been the aim since this run. Looked at Dale Stair when winning the Martin Pipe, so I can definitely see the appeal. I just have a concern whether he's still a bit too raw to necessarily take to the test. I still think his jumping leaves a bit to desire. I think when you saw him school over one of the fences in a video that was posted on social media, he seemed to get quite high on the back end, which these days you might get away with. But if he does that one too many times, that might see him come down. So for as much as I can see the appeal, I just have a few concerns in the back of my head. But he does look well treated. It's just those little niggles that are keeping me from putting him slightly further up the list.
So that's Iroko. Here he is at home in a recent feature done by the Racing TV team. He's fifth on the short list for Dan overall. Next up, it's going to be a Henry de Bromhead runner. I know Dan likes the other one. I'm with Senior Chief, though. I think there's a bit more scope for improvement, particularly as he's a horse who's going to be more suited going left-handed. Now, he's only won once so far this season. This came at Cheltenham here, seeing off Stedward Companion the short go. And he did it in nice enough style over this 3 mile one trip. He's got to prove, obviously, that he's got the stamina-laden credentials, and his jumping at times can sometimes leave a bit to be desired. I think Race IQ, he's rated below 7 in terms of the jump index, but I thought he was a stayer on the up, and crucially, he's going to like quicker ground. Darragh O'Keefe rides. Is that a concern instead of Rachel ditching Minella Indo? I'd personally say no, because I think she was always going to ride Indo. So I think Senior Chief, I think he's around the 28-1 chance currently. I just thought he made appeal as one who might sneak into the places in 5th. So that's Senior Chief for me. On to our horses for the 4th place. Dan?
Yeah, so the other Henry de Bromhead horse, Minella Indo, obviously third in the race last year for mark 159, now down to a mark 158. One of those at the age of 12, I don't think will have enough left to win a race of this nature, but I think he's got everything in his favour to run extremely well again. Last season generally was all about the cross-country for him. This year, on the other hand, it's all been all about the national. They said because of the changes to the cross-country, now obviously being a handicap at the festival, they weren't going to send him down that route. So he's been more likely race this season, but there seems to be a belief at home that he's showing plenty of his old spark. Obviously, former Gold Cup winner, plenty of class, no issues on decent ground. Obviously, you say Rachel's chosen him. I think that was always going to be the case. I think it takes given the success that Minella has given her, I don't think she was ever going to be getting off him. But I think another one of those who I can see running a big race, but at age of 12, I don't think he's quite capable of winning it.
Okay, that's Minella Indo for Dan. I think he's going to run well, isn't he? It's not nailed on that he's hopefully going to finish in maybe the placings for Dan. And Andy Stevens has given him as his horse to beat in his 34 runner guide. So he believes the 12-year-old can roll back the years and land the Grand National. Next up, in terms of my 4th pick, it's a tricky one now because I think the top 4, there's not much to split any of them. I've gone for Manella Cocooner. Very well backed in recent days. He was 33s, 25 a week back. I think he's now into 12-1. I thought it's a bit rogue that Danny Mullins is not on him. They've gone for Johnny Burke. Nothing against Johnny Burke, and I know Danny's gone on well with Meeting of the Waters before, but I thought he would have ridden Minella Cocooner. But anyway, here he is winning the Bet365. He did this in good style, and he hasn't won since, but he caught the eye when he was 4th in the Bobby Joe last time out. I'm sure we'll use that VT shortly for intense raffles and the like, but I thought that was a promising enough effort. I think there's a bit more scope for improvement off his current Mark II, and again, he's another horse who the drying ground will suit. So I thought Manella Cocooner, it was tough to leave him out of your top 6. He's already proven over a staying distance. Okay, it's even longer, this 4.25 mile trip, but I think he was the one of the Mullins battalion this year that I wanted to be on. Just a quick word on that, Dan. Johnny Burke getting the ride. I mean, it's a big ride. I'm just a bit surprised. You know, Meeting of the Waters is 22s and the Cocooner's 12s.
Yeah, still not really sure what to make of it. I mean, I love Johnny Burke as a rider, but it's so uncharacteristic of Willie Mullins to book a jockey a few days in advance. Normally, you're having to scramble around on the admin site, checking 3 hours after declarations to get who's riding it. So came as a bit of a surprise, but I'm still trying to err on the positive side because ultimately he's still a very good rider.
Okay, back to you, Dan, for your next selection, which is going to be...
In 3rd, Intense Raffles. And I think if the ground was softer, and also I think it was an old school Grand National, he would have outstanding chances. I think he'd be 4-1 favourite. But unfortunately, the ground doesn't look it's going to come right for him. But I still think he has all the credentials to run really well. Obviously, he won the Irish National last season. Dower Stayer, this was heavy ground as an Irish National always is. So he'd been lightly raced this season, couple spins over hurdles. A great run in the Bobby Joe when last seen in 2nd. Always a good trial for the race. Obviously giving weight away to the likes of Nick Rocket, Manella Cocooner there. I say, quite remarkable. You look back at the 3-year-old hurdle or toy that he beat a certain Iroko that day nearly 4 years ago, and here they are towards the head of the market for a Grand National. Look, only 7, but extremely likable, jumps very well. I just think maybe he might get caught for a bit of tactical speed on decent ground, and given he's only 7, he might be one to run extremely well and then to look back at this race next year and hope for more softer conditions, because I think a soft, heavy ground Grand National, I think that would be absolutely ideal for him.
Spoiler alert, neither of us like Nick Rocket. Why do you not like Nick Rocket?
Off 163, obviously he's achieved a lot this season. They've spoken about him not being an overly big horse who's carrying a lot of weight. I think when you look at the type of horses that are off that kind of weight around him, like Iron Maximus won this race before, obviously a Hewick, Grade 1 winner. I don't think he's necessarily shown exactly that level. Obviously, that was a great prep run. Patrick's on him. He's actually a bit of a drifter as well. I just thought he achieved enough this season. And obviously his mark has suffered as a result. I thought there are more appealingly handicapped horses.
So Dan, so far, 6th Duffel Coat, 5th Iroko, 4th Minella Indo, 3rd Intense Raffles. For me, 6th Stumptown, 5th Senior Chief, 4th Manella Cocooner. And now the big one, the story that a lot of people want to happen, and it would be incredible if he could do the business. And that, of course, is Hewick. I think he's bound to run well. The ground's in his favour. Shark Hannon saying this week, if this race was 10 years ago, if he had Hewick then, he wouldn't have run in this race. But I think Ruby, talking on Road to Aintree last night, said, as long as you can get through the fences these days, it's not about jumping big over them. It's a race that's completely changed complexion, and that means that a horse like Hewick, they've decided to roll the dice and run here. Perfect prep, seeing off Asterium Phalange at Turl is in this hurdle. Good ground is obviously in his favour. He's a sound enough jumper, and I think you've got to remember he's a top class horse on his day. He's won a King George in his back catalogue. So for me, I think Hewick has leading claims of going well. I think he's got to be within your top 6. So Hewick, 3rd on my list. And what a story it would be. They said maybe if he does win, it could be a Hollywood movie made into for the Hewick story. Dan, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2. So first up, who's runner up in this year's Grand National for Dan overall?
One we agree on, I think running well, Manella Cocooner for me. So it's been a bit of a long-term fancy of mine, and obviously the money's come for him recently. The booking of Jonathan Burke has raised some eyebrows, but I still think his profile is very good for the race. Obviously, lightly raced 9-year-old, Grade 1 novice hurdle winner, 2nd in a couple of more. Came right in the spring last year when he was 3rd in the Irish National. He was 4 lengths behind Intense Raffles, £2 better off of him here, but I think he's more effective on the better ground. Obviously, then won the Bet 365 off a mark 151, as we saw earlier. This season, very much just plodded around in Grade 1 company. Showed a bit more in the Bobby Joe, and I think that's very much in his profile. He seems to come right in the spring. I just think he's coming to boil at the right time, and for as much as that booking maybe is raising some eyebrows, I'm taking the positive view. So I've been a bit of a long-term view of mine that he'll run well, and I'm not abandoning him just now.
Okay, Manella Cocooner, 2nd in then for Dan. We agree on hopefully him going close in this year's National. My horse for the 2nd is another Gavin Cromwell trained horse. I think Perceval Legallois. He's the one who's been kept fresh for this assignment compared to Stumptown and Vanillier. Here he is scoring in the Paddy Power at Leopardstown. Form's been let down a couple of times by those in behind, particularly the 2nd. But Nick Rocket was 4th, and he hasn't let it down at all. So that's a strong looking piece of form, even. And then he went on, of course, to win over hurdles at the DRF. I just think, off his current mark, he's another one that Cromwell's done a nice job with him this year, getting him to that 153. And I think one thing with this horse, he was always the nearly horse, but he's now won 2. Confidence is at an all-time high, and I just think he might be able to build on that again. And he's another one, okay, he's probably got stamina to prove, but he's got a high cruising speed, he's a class angle. And yeah, I just think Perceval Legallois might just have a little bit more to come. Dan, quick word on him. He's not making your shortlist?
No, I can see the appeal. Obviously, all of his best form is at Leopardstown. So I wonder if he's just a bit of a Leopardstown specialist. But yeah, I would prefer him over the likes of Vanillier and Stumptown, personally. I thought both of those. I think Vanillier is a bit of always an eye-catching horse because he always seems to rattle home. He did so in the Grand National, and Stumptown, I just thought, had a very hard race. And when you look at why they sent him over the cross-country fences, it's because he was kind of out of love of big field handicaps, and now he's into the biggest field handicap, basically, of them all. So I'd have him at the top of the Gavin Cromwell shortlist.
Just a brief word on the defending champion, I Maximus. Too much weight this year, and I think the concern as well from the stats guys is that he's only run twice this year. The last horse to run twice before winning the National was a certain Red Rum back in 1977.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big ask off 167. Obviously, very impressive winner last year, but also I think he had a much better preparation going into the race last year, and it always seemed to be the case that he was going to come right that day. This year, not shown as much spark. They seemingly think he's going well at home, and see, Paultown is electing to ride him again, but yeah, the preparation, top weight off 167, that'll be enough to put me off.
Who wins the Randox Grand National? Stay tuned. Okay, the moment you've been waiting for then. Dan Overall's horse that will win the 2025 Randox Grand National is...
Hewick for me, and what a horse he is. His story is well known by now, but it would really complete what is a sensational story if Hewick was to do it. I just think he ticks all the boxes you look for in the modern style Grand National. So he's shown very effective form in big handicaps. He won a Galway Plate off 155, won a Bet 365 off 149 before that. So stamina is absolutely no doubt. He's proven over marathon trips. And you only have to go back 11 months. He was 3 lengths behind Galopin Des Champs and Faster Slow in the Punchestown Gold Cup. So he narrowly beaten by Envoy Len in the Grade 1 earlier this season as well. Perfect spin over hurdles recently. This day in the King George's one, I will never forget as a backer of him on this day. He looked beaten for 2.5 miles of the race, only to come with a wet sail, and that's the kind of horse he is. Plucky, determined, has some class, enough class to travel into a race like this. I don't think there'll be many finishing their race off better. Confidence, it seems high, and a mark 162. While obviously it's towards the top end, he is a Grade 1 horse. If not an absolute out-and-out top Grade 1 horse, he's still a Grade 1 winner and has shown effective form in Grade 1s for the last couple of seasons. I just think he ticks all the boxes and the ground has come right for him.
Hewick then for Dan to win this year's Grand National. I'm with a horse that Dan's already mentioned, Iroko. His second to I Know the Way of Thinking in the Mild May last year. Look, that's a solid piece of form. He also had Hartwood, who of course ran well in the Ryanair. And I thought this was a lovely prep behind Grey Dawning, who hopefully can win the bowl. We're recording on Thursday before he hopefully puts Spillane's Tower to the sword in that contest. But his chance is obvious. He's been the horse that McManus has sort of primed for the race all year. Greenall and Guerrero are a brilliant training partnership. He's off here at 152. That mark hasn't moved in 4 runs this season. So for me, I think the handicap has been pretty generous with him so far. The concern I have, and I share with Dan, and he mentioned that social media video, his jumping would be a concern for me, but he's clearly got the class. And I think that's what you need these days in a national. He's got that tactical versatility, and I just hope he can go well. He's a Cheltenham Festival winner, of course, in the Martin Pipe as well. So Iroko can hopefully go close in the JP McManus Silks. So there you go then. That's a look at all 6 selections. Dan's got Duffel Coat in 6th, Iroko in 5th, Minella Indo in 4th, Intense Raffles in 3rd, Manella Cocooner in 2nd, and Hewick in 1st place. Obviously, if that comes up, he's moving to Barbados or wherever.
You'll never see me on a video ever again. No need. Retire to the sunshine.
I'll be moving to Mallorca, I think, if Stumptown Senior Chief, Minella Cocooner, Hewick, Perceval Legallois, and Iroko can do the business. So we'll sum that up again in a minute, but just while we've got Dan, you know that he loves a couple of handicap fancies. So to finish the show, Dan, just take us through a couple of selections you've got for the rest of the action at Aintree this week.
Yeah, sure. Let's focus on the Friday and the Saturday in the 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. Reckless Eric is a horse I've been impressed with this season. Obviously won what looked like a deep novice handicap at the start of the season at Cheltenham. Been a bit unlucky, I thought, in all 3 starts since. He was in that race behind Mirabad where he stayed on best for the rest. Been very eye-catching at Windsor and Sandown since. I think he looks ready for the step up to 2.5 miles, but also needs good ground. Gets all of that, and I think he's a decent each-way price. In the 2 mile handicap to close the day, Celtic Dino is a horse they've said needs good ground. He's going to get that here. Last couple of starts, he hasn't exactly had his conditions, but looked like he was going to be a real high-class novice. So he beat Wade Out, who's one of the favourites for that 2.5 mile handicap hurdle earlier on the day. I think there's just every reason to believe he's going to be primed to run a big race. I was actually, if he wasn't going to run here, I thought he was almost a certainty to run the Welsh Champion hurdle at the start of next season, given the Sam Thomas connections. And it's interesting, they run lump sum in the race as well to keep the weights down for Celtic Dino with Dylan Johnson on Celtic Dino. I think he's got an outstanding chance. And then the 3 mile handicap chase on the Saturday, Imperial Saint is a horse I've been quietly impressed by this season. Seems to absolutely love Aintree. Already won here 3 times. This race tends to go to a horse who steps up in trip and one of the more lightly raced types who's shown graded form. He's done all of that. Obviously, My Town is towards the head of the betting, having routed the Ultimate Field. Whether he can back that up is a bit of a question mark. But Imperial Saint, he loves the track. I think the step up in trip will help him, and they've always seen him as a free miler. Connections have a great record in the race, and I think he's primed to run a big race an each way price.
So Reckless Eric, 11-1, 10-1 for Celtic Dino, and on Saturday, Imperial Saint at 12s. I love the graded races, as you know. So Tripoli Flyer, I think his jumping's got to improve, but Romeo Culia had a hard enough race in the Supreme, and I just like this horse. He'll bounce off the ground, and hopefully there's a bit more to come, but he'll need to step up, and he'll need to jump better. Was at John Joe O'Neill's before Cheltenham. This horse is clearly the stable flag bearer going forward. Poor old Holloway boy, we lost him as well, but Holloway boy, Springwell Bay, even Holloway boy's trained by Carl Burke. Mr. Megget, I think, is a horse they clearly think an awful lot of, and he's obviously met with a setback. They wanted to get him back for this meeting. They have done, and AJ O'Neill in particular was waxing lyrical about his chances stepping up in trip. So Mr. Megget wants to know at Aintree on Friday. So there you go. Just to wrap up, Dan, just take us through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 45 seconds and why you've come to that conclusion.
Duffel Coat to finish 6th. I mean, he has the class to win, but I think he'll plug on. Ground in his favour. Iroko, I can definitely see him winning. I just have too many concerns about his jumping and his maybe still inexperience to win. So I think he'll finish 5th and maybe back for it next year. Minella Indo, reliable sort, ran well in the race last year. No reason he won't run well again. I think he'll finish 4th. Again, probably just at 12 years old. Not quite the young legs to win it. Intense Raffles would be my idea of the winner if the ground was softer. Just a bit of a concern about his tactical speed on quicker ground, but I think he ticks every other box in terms of a Grand National winner. Manella Cocooner comes right in the spring. Big field handicap chase form. I think he's primed to run a big race. And the winner, a horse of a lifetime for Shark Hanlon, Hewick, to complete the fairy tale story.
Stumptown to finish 6th for me. I think he'll run well, but he might just be caught out by horses who didn't run at Cheltenham or a bit fresher. But clearly he's a horse that takes well to these sort of idiosyncratic tracks. Next up, we Senior Chief. I think both him and Minella Indo will run well for Henry de Bromhead. This guy going back left-handed, drying ground. I think there's a bit more improvement to come. Manella Cocooner for 4th. He won well in the Bet365 last year. He's clearly a staying chaser on the up. Surprising that Danny Mullins doesn't ride, but hopefully Johnny Burke can do the business on him. Superstar Hewick, hopefully they can make this into a Hollywood movie when he scores by 20 lengths, but I think he's going to run well no matter what happens here. Jumping, he'll stay, and he'll obviously love the ground. So Hewick to run well in 3rd. Perceval Legallois in 2nd for Gavin Cromwell. This has been the plan for a while. I think there's scope for more improvement off his current mark. Impressive at Leopardstown the last twice. Hopefully he can translate that to Aintree. And Iroko off that mark of 152. It hasn't moved in 4 runs. Good second to Grey Dawning last time. And obviously, if you look at his back catalogue, fine form behind subsequent Gold Cup winner. I know the way you're thinking at this meeting last year. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from me and Dan for this year's Randox Grand National. So there you go. That's another episode done and dusted. Just a quick reminder, if you do want to take advantage of that £12 per month offer for an entire year, make sure you head to the Racing TV website to take advantage. Thanks as always to Dan for coming on. He goes on his summer holidays now, so enjoy the summer break while the flat comes back down. But thanks for all his efforts as always. Remember, you can follow him over and clear on Twitter. And thanks for watching at home. Good luck if you are having a bet in the Grand National. Enjoy it on Saturday at 4 p.m. Please remember to gamble responsibly.